Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a new podcast we're going to be doing called Be My Therapist. Today on the show, we've got Dr. Prof. Prof, what is your specialty in therapy?
Definitely relationships, multiple partners at the same time. That's where I focus most of my attention, and it's helped a lot of people so far. At least one.
At least one?
At least one. At least one confirmed helped.
Okay, now before I derail this and it turns into just insanity again, let me try one more time. Welcome to HLTV Confirmed. We're back again. This is Season 5, Episode 5, and I'll quickly just summarize before we introduce our guest, before we talk to Lucas, the producer, what's going on in today's show. You can see beautiful Dexter here. We'll be picking his brain. We're obviously going to talk about things that have been happening in the recent news. MIBR struggling. FNX and Lucas, apparently they have COVID. I don't know. We'll dig into that one later. Mouse sports. Oh, it's a mess over there. We're going to be talking about this coach bug. That one is going to be a mess. We'll wait till we talk about that one. Good, bad, and the ugly. We're coming through some Pro League up next, and obviously all things ESL 1 Cologne. But yes, you're back. We're here. Lucas, say hello to everybody.
Hey, guys.
Are you going to break anything today?
I hope I don't break anything.
Okay.
Not
okay,
sure.
Cool. All right, cool. And no, but seriously, we do have a lovely guest here today. Dexter, aka Chris, Australian in-game leader of Renegades. Mate, what's going on?
Nothing much, just glad to be here.
Sweet, thanks for joining us late, man. I know we're in Australia right now. What is it, 11 p.m. for you?
Yeah, 11.
Okay, well, we'll get stuck into it. Lucas, roll the bumper. Let's get into the hot seat. All right, we are back. Now, there's an elephant in the room. It's a rather large one. And on a kind of serious note, I am genuinely trying to turn my life around, as silly as that sounds. So one of the things that I need to clear here before I start asking Dexter all these questions is I need to apologize to you, mate. I need to say sorry because I don't know if you remember, but I remember I was a bit of a dick to you when we used to play against you back online, and I'm sorry about that. I hope I didn't leave any lasting damage, and I hope you've forgiven me, or I hope you can forgive me.
I actually don't even remember any of that.
I was mean to you.
Probably, highly likely. No, I'm joking. I think I was a bit of a weird, edgy kid back then, if anything. So, given my experience of that right now, that's very fair.
No, I think what it was because when we would play against you, you were always like lurking, and I was holding A on Mirage, and you'd always just fucking come out Palace. So I was like rotating to go over to that B side, and you kill me, and I just fucking filthy. It made me mad. But I've apologized now, and I feel better. It's been lifted off my chest. So let's get stuck into the questions here, mate, because I don't think, look, I don't know how people are not familiar with you, because watching you play international Counter-Strike and in-game leading this squad of Renegades, a name very, very close to my heart, you're a fucking monster, mate. You are, I think, I don't want to say underrated, because I think the people in the know, they definitely rate you, but I think that because you're playing in the bubble that is Australian Counter-Strike, you don't get the credit that you probably deserve. So before I lord over you too much, let's actually steer the conversation in the directions of the questions Prof has provided for me here today. You want to talk a bit about, your transition into, first of all, being a player within Australia and then becoming a high-fragging in-game leader?
Oh, what do you exactly mean by playing in Australia?
So, how you started playing, the origins of your career. You were obviously in SYF in the early days. You had that whole Winter Fox run. There's a lot of things that have happened before you've gotten to this point.
Yeah, well, I guess pretty much the start of my whole CS career started when injured myself at the gym, and then I couldn't actually walk that well or do anything, so I decided to play CS instead of actually studying for uni, which I should have been doing. And then basically just started playing leagues like in CG and CGA, and then from there joined SYF, and then from there joined Chiefs, and then Chiefs joined Winter Fox, and then pretty much just like from there just like using my, I don't know, fuel of losing to make myself better.
The Winter Fox one, man, I wouldn't mind digging into a little bit more, because obviously at the same time we were off doing our Renegade shit, and for us it was a mess, but your situation, I can only imagine, must have been even worse than ours, right? Like Winter Fox as an org, like they're a piece of shit, right?
It was a very interesting time. didn't know what was going on too much, but
Nice way to put it.
yeah, they did a few things wrong, such as putting the team in two different houses, and one of the houses is just like in the ghetto, essentially, type house with no aircon, and the other one, which we stayed in, was like a palace.
Oh
So that's a
shit.
bad idea how to start a team.
Oh shit. Okay, because I remember that time. Like, obviously, you guys had quite the mix in roster back then, and that, fuck, it was feels like a lifetime ago now. Now I kind of want to start heading in the direction of like in-game leaders and influencers and that kind of stuff. And please don't say me because we all know I was shit. But like for you, where were you looking, and especially now in the modern era of Counter-Strike, like where were you getting a lot of your understanding and influences from? Is it just like what you've downloaded, or is there players or in-game leaders you've looked towards, or anything along those lines?
I think back then it would have been pretty much Fallen and Cold Zero.
Yeah.
What I'd do would be like I'd just watch Fallen demos all the time, and I'd try and understand pretty much why he's playing like this, and what his teammates do, and then I'd read Cold Zero's interviews all the time, how he thinks and everything like that, and then I'd even translate the Brazilian ones into English to see
Oh
if I can
shit.
get anything from there, and then that's kind of how I like at least got my information.
Okay.
That was like 2016, 17, right? When
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are. But like when it's hard to look at it from today's point of view because so many teams came in and there was this whole Astralis area where everyone is like, Astralis are doing everything the best. But back then, I remember everyone saying like, these guys are the best. Like Fallen, the way they're playing, disruptive and playing the best like 3v3s, late round situations and stuff like that. And Coldzera actually, from my point of view as an interviewer, was one of the best guys to talk to because you just ask him about like a specific map, specific position. He's going to go in so much in depth that probably, as we know, he gave off maybe too much information to other people about how he approached like Ivy on train and stuff like that. But
Yep.
it was super, super cool to follow back then.
So obviously now, I don't want to fast forward too quickly into the Renegade stuff, but I guess we get more Australian Counter-Strike talk as we go through all of this. Now, you as a player, right? I think you're a full package player, if I'm going to be honest. When I watch you play, but I remember you being a little bit more lurky, a little bit more along those kind of lines. But you're making it work now with the in-game leadership role in tow. Did you pick that up because nobody else was doing it? Did you decide that you wanted to be an in-game leader, like out of your own choice, or was this like another situation that we see with, like, say, Nico, for example, over in FaZe? He's just doing it because no one else can or no one else will.
I guess it like pretty much all stemmed from like Winterfox days because back then everyone was kind of changing roles. Like every other day was a new in-game leader, and I kind of put my hand up and I was kind of shut down for it. And then
Oh shit.
that kind of like builds in me, and I'll be like, oh, I'll show them kind of attitude, and then it just like, oh yeah, I'll just give it a go and then see how it goes. Try to make a good team, try to make good environment as best I can, and then yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of got into it. But definitely the Greyhound, when I first joined Greyhound, Urkas wanted me as in-game leader because he couldn't in-game lead, as in he didn't have I don't know, it was just too much pressure for him back then, so it was passed on to me basically.
So that balance, right, is obviously something we talk a lot about from the desk perspectives. Like, yeah, in-game leaders, we talk about like the Dapsters of the world, like the Hundens are good examples right there of they're good Counter-Strike minds, but in terms of putting it down with the numbers in the server, it doesn't always click. How do you find that balance individually? Is it something which you struggle with? Well, obviously not, right? With the way your stats look and the way it looks like you perform. So how do you balance that? You like knowing what's going on all across the map?
I like having a good idea of what everyone in the team wants to do. I kind of want a kind of freedom style, just like pretty much the LG SK days, pretty much how they play, and then just make sure we kind of understand each other to a certain level enough that we can bounce off each other really well. So I don't really want to like control everyone too much exactly, because I feel like if everyone's able to make their own decisions and learn from those decisions, they get better as players and can pretty much just contribute to the team overall in the long term.
Okay. So let's go on that full package approach, right? So if we go down the list here, we've got to do with Renegades breaking into the top 20, the DreamHack, and the Katowice. Prof, you want to take this one? You want to steer the ship on this one?
Yeah, I guess we can just start with the beginning of the year, where you guys, even late 2019, you're playing a lot of events compared to the average Australian team, I guess, international ones, and then you broke into the top 20 late 2019. Beginning of 2020, you had, I think, the first time you were invited to a DreamHack Open, because there were never any qualifiers for you guys for a DreamHack Open, even though team-wise you would fit in pretty nicely. So this was a nice change, I guess. And then you finished second there, outplacing a lot of like European teams, even HUNDEN Strict, that became Mad Lions. Those guys, I think you beat even directly, placing second. And then you had Katowice after that. So that was like from my perspective, like a very good time for you guys as a team, and what it looked like to be the rest of 2020, right? With all of the invites, Pro League and stuff like that. So tell me just about going into DreamHack. Were you expecting that kind of a result, and how did that affect the team, like finishing second there?
Going to that, from what I remember, we were just very chill, and just the boot camp was good in terms of everyone's attitudes. Like, even though we lost scrims or whatever, like everyone was just like, "Oh yeah, it's just another day," and then we're just bouncing off each other well. Everyone's communicating, and then going to the actual event, no one was really thinking of anything too much. Like, we were just wanted to make it onto the stage at the very least. And then after we versed, I believe it was Cloud9. And then we just pretty much destroyed them. We were just pretty confident going to the rest of the whole tournament, and then yeah, it kind of showed.
Okay. Well, I think when a lot of people won't really understand how difficult it is having to practice within the bubble of Australia and then go over and do the boot camps, right? When you go over and you're doing that kind of prep, how long is it taking you boys to like adjust from what you're doing back at home to the actual version of Counter-Strike that the rest of the world is playing? Is it, you find it happens pretty quickly?
It's really, really difficult, because firstly you have to get over 4 or 5 days of jet lag,
Yeah.
and then you can't even concentrate for those days. And then after those 4 or 5 days, you're like, oh yeah, this is how we should actually play CS. And then you go into versing just basic Russian teams, if anything, and then they're just like showing you like, yeah, this is how you do it. Like, and it's so different compared to Australia. And even right now, I'm pretty sure we're just playing the complete Australian style, but trying to do better at other things. But yeah, it's very, very, very different.
Okay. Yeah, I obviously I remember that, but for us, I think Counter Strike back then, when we were doing it, was a lot. It was like a lot quicker. Like it was a lot. It was a lot more risk taken, I think, in CS back in those days. Whereas now, you guys genuinely have to think a lot more, which sounds silly. And a lot of people, I have so many players on the show, and I have so many players when I interview them and asking questions when I'm doing broadcasts, and I'm like, oh yeah, how much has the game changed? And they're like, oh, not really. And I'm like, that is bullshit. Like I watch the game every day of my life, and just like the way that I can like justify it to myself was when I first started playing with like Justin. The way that he approached the game was like really slowed down and methodical and taking and back then, obviously, what do? Well, we label players like that as betas. But the way that Counter-Strike is played now, everybody plays that way. They're isolating duels. They're not taking any risks. They're making sure every fight they go into, there's either a flash or they jiggle, or all those details. Like the game now, especially with the more time on the clock with the bomb and the round time, right? Those details there have made it so much more of like, you have to be switched on for every moment. And I think that's what's made Counter-Strike a lot more intense from the micro decision making. But when you're back at home, does a lot of that go out of the window? Like, are you now like, like lazy clearing, and you're like taking extra steps because you know that you can get away with it, or you know the other teams aren't as good?
Definitely not. I think me and Mitha, we both try and like influence the team in terms of how we want to play all the time. Sometimes we'll have that game where we're just 25 for O up or something like that, and we're just like, what else can you really do? So yeah, but most of the time, we're trying to enforce like, make sure we have good economy, make sure we're like doing everything slow, because you can see it in even the last Cologne matches, where the caster was calling us boring as a team, because we were just doing everything so slow and just precise and taking our time, and like we didn't need to do anything. Everyone just made the mistake for us, and we just got kills, and we won a whole event because of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anyone realizes that. Like, they're just peeking into us. We're just AFK, and it's just winning a tournament. Yeah.
You want
That's
to
Australia right now.
give them a free bit of advice, see if they can turn things around. Do you think there
I
is
hope
like there's obviously like a bunch of names still banging around out there, even from the source and 1.6 days. Like APOC is still going, it's fucking insane. Like Ofnu's still in there, but you still going. We've got a bunch. Ricky's back in the server, and these are names like at this point that they would understand how to play the game at a high level. So what do you think that the difference is here? Like, why do you think that they're unable to apply themselves in the same way as what your boys are?
I honestly don't know. I feel like this whole term of like experience doesn't count for anything. I think it's just how your mentality is, and how just like how calm you are, how just young you are even, and just like I don't know, just like experience isn't a thing in my opinion. I think it's like the most bullshit thing. Oops, I don't know if I can say that, but
Hey, you can say whatever you want.
All
Say
right,
whatever
cool.
you want.
Yeah, pretty much. I say experience is just like everyone just calls out experience. Like this person has so much experience or whatever, and I'm just like, it doesn't show at all. They're making the biggest mistakes ever, and I was just like, it's all about how you approach your team, how you realize what your team wants to do, and how smart you are in each like scenario, and that's it. Like I don't really see experience as a thing unless it's maybe LAN, which the only thing it can really affect is how calm you are, basically. And yeah.
Okay.
I love this just because like every time I want to ask people like what they think is the most bullshit or overrated thing that people talk about, or like casters or anyone in the scene, and you nail down one at least, which is like that. People always talk about how veteran smarts, they need like an older player, which is, it kind of works in some degrees, but I feel like, as you said, sometimes it's just like this guy's 29, so he's experienced even though he doesn't even do the role that you would expect him to do. Or as you say, like even like maybe we'll talk about Vitality later, but I think like Apex is one of the weirdest things to exist in CS, even especially because he's now in-game leading and doing like a fairly good job at it. Individually, he's still doing those same idiotic peaks at some points, or like, why is he doing this? Like, he's been playing this game for literally 10 years at least on a high level, and in some situations just like an Apex peak, like he has to do this, he has to die now, he dies, and that's it. So I agree, like the veterancy is sometimes kind of bullshit.
It's one of those scenarios, right, where the reps that you put into situations, right, in like if you find yourself in this situation a lot of times, that's where like you would think experience should be able to shine through. But from what you're saying, I think it's a lot of bad habits that are carried on through, right, from generations gone of Counter-Strike. Like when I was playing Source, which is honestly at this point, I was playing in the CGS 12 years ago. 12 years ago is how long it was when I was in Sydney Underground. And the brand of Counter-Strike there was, we had executes and we did dry runs and we knew the nades and flashes that we need to throw, but it was fast CS. It was about capitalizing on timings and stuff. And like, I'm still talking about that. And then it came in when CSGO started, we played in a very similar way. Like we had set pieces. I would work, really hard on coming up with unique kind of set smokes that we could do, and then taking space quickly and hoping we catch the other team off guard. And those habits, and that's going back 5 years. So like you get quite a good glance at how Counter-Strike has really evolved in that time. And that's why I think when the new kids came through and you guys had all slowed it all down, because you're one of the names who definitely, at least back in Australia, I noticed was playing Counter-Strike a lot slower and methodical. That's where the change comes through, right? And Apex and Shox and those boys are definitely from the older gen, and they never played slowish Counter-Strike. So anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm digressing a little bit here. Let's keep this one going forward. So now, this one here, man, we need to start talking about just how fucked it is for you guys down under, because I don't know, people probably aren't keeping their finger on the pulse about what's happening in Australia as far as the pandemic is. So the country's on full lockdown, right? Like in terms of you can't leave, you can't go overseas.
Yeah, you can't go overseas, and if you want to come in, you have to pay for business class and over $3,000 in hotel, hotel costs for yourself, and then it's pretty rough right now.
Yeah. So, look, for you guys with the start of the year where you had kind of it, so you had DreamHack, things were looking like they were trending in a pretty good direction for you guys this year. Was the plan to spend more time in Europe, boot camping and doing events or anything like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just before pretty much the whole thing became a pandemic, we were about to go to Malta. We were about to go after that to the minor quals and all that in Brazil. So it was just like, oh yeah, got 2 week boot camp here. Go home, chill out. Go boot camp again. Go to minor, finish that. Maybe boot camp even more, and then just go home, relax, and then like all that, and then pandemic hit, and then just for a whole month we're just sitting, just looking at the sun.
Well, look, I guess there's worse things to be looking at, really, in the scheme of things. But with you personally being stuck in Australia now and having to this, has it come like to your mind at any point that you guys were going to take like a break or anything? Because there's still a lot of events going on, but it is just the same teams that you're playing in online Counter Strike. So is the idea just to keep grinding, just keep going, or what's the plan for the rest of the year?
For the rest of the year, pretty much just win every event that we have coming for us. And then at some point there'll be a little bit of a break because honestly, most of us didn't really get a break because we're in stage 4 lockdown.
Yeah.
So we're just at home anyway.
Melbourne's fucked at the moment, isn't it?
Yep. So that's a bit rough. But yeah, I'm not too sure. We just have to keep the mentality of like you just want to win all the time mentality, and that's the only way you can proceed.
What's the feeling from the organization, right? Because obviously there was when you guys first joined this roster, it was that you were going to stay and compete from Australia and travel to all the events overseas. And now it's much more viable there. And it would have been much more viable to play closer events with more stuff popping up in Asia, et cetera, et cetera. But like that you guys are locked away. Like, are they just like, yeah, just keep doing your thing, just keep winning domestically, or is there no real dialogue there?
There's a little bit of dialogue, but we just have to make sure we're just like doing the best that we can here. I'm not too sure. Like, just hope like we're able to travel in the near future so that we can pretty much represent the org as it is should be represented. And then yeah, I'm not too sure other than that.
So, look, there's another thing here as well. People, if they don't follow you on Twitter or haven't been to your Twitter, in your Twitter bio, it states that you're a chartered accountant, you're a chief financial officer, you're a father, and you're the in-game leader of this team, right? Do you still do any of the former two? Do you still do any of the accounting stuff?
No, that's just all bullshit. I'm pretty sure there's a part where it says I'm bullshitting.
Wait, you're not actually an accountant?
No.
Why do I think you're an accountant?
It goes chartered accountant, chief financial officer, bullshitter, father, and in-game leader.
Well, you bullshitted me. I thought that you were actually like an accountant because I remember like you always seemed to me like a kid with his head screwed on straight, right? So I was gonna go with this shit right here. I was gonna say fuck, like.
I fell for the same shit because when you graduated or something, you said,
Yep.
What is this? Something like, I don't know,
Just finish
mechanical
my
biology.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, how's that? I'm like, yeah, I didn't actually do that.
That's why people gotta read in the lines. It says clearly, it says bullshitter in the middle.
Wait, so does the bullshit only work for the things behind it? Like, does it work for the bits in front of it as well? Are you not the in-game leader? Is fucking Hat's doing it or some shit?
No, I'm the in-game leader. Everything else is bullshit. That's it.
Okay, because I'm like, well, if he's a father, man, like I was gonna see if I could get him to go join this team. Like I'm working in the battle. All these players I talk to, they're like, yeah, man, fucking, we want to play with Dexter and shit. And I'm like, I don't know if he'll go because he's a dad, man. Like I don't know if he wants to leave.
No, it's just a meme I'm just putting up. It's like people just calling me extra smart. I'm just really busy. And no, I'm just fucking bullshitting everyone.
Well, you destroyed me here, making me look like a real fool. Holy shit! All right, well, I'm glad we got to the bottom of that. Well, now fuck. Okay, well, we don't even need to get into where I was going with this then. Prof, you got any questions about the pandemic?
You derailed me completely here.
Well,
so
okay.
Obviously, I just wanted to mention to people that maybe aren't watching. I was talking to Dexter before the show as well. Like the stats you guys have for the last 6 months, ever since you essentially came back to Katowice, was literally winning 5 or 6 events, however you want to look at it. Lost 2 series out of 24, and both were kind of irrelevant. I think like 13 maps lost to like 49 won. So it's literally like complete domination in the scene. SPUNJ did talk a bit about like other teams. I think just for people that don't know that much about Australia, it's like who are the. I mean, you more or less picked up all of the best players now, so that also makes all the other teams not that dangerous. But who are the best teams or players outside of you guys in Australia right now?
It'll easily have to be Order, Chiefs, and Avant. And then Roosters as well, they're like kind of like a weird pug team, if anything, that are just catching people off guard. But in terms of proper CS and consistent CS, I think Avant, yeah, Order and Chiefs, those guys.
So what about the players? Like
Yeah.
Sterling is a guy you played with for some time. Then he went out. You got Sicko, right? And Alistair as well. Like those are the two names that pop to mind to me, at least. Are there other guys that are kind of on the rise that are dangerous, or the older guys that are still dangerous, right?
For me, it'd have to be mostly the young guys. So the Order in-game leader, Jira, and then the new player they picked up, or one of the new players they picked up, Valiance. Just like they play excellent CS, pretty much just like making sure they're doing the right things at all time, calm in all their decisions. So it shows a lot. And then a lot of the other teams, maybe Avant, like Blitz, he has very unique game sense and understanding of his game sense, so he plays well. But other than that, it's mostly everyone is just a very sharp shooter, mostly. But I like to point out those three pretty much are definitely the highlights of me understanding how they're thinking. And it's like, yeah, you're thinking properly, and it's respect.
So with those guys, and I suppose there's been a bunch of names, right, who've come through and they haven't actually managed to make anything of themselves here within the region. I look at that the Avant team when they first got picked up at the start of the year, it was like a bunch of younger guys, and then it's all fallen apart, and now it's become like another one of these APOC teams, right? Like, how does this cycle keep happening? How, like, I guess you probably aren't too connected with it, but is it just the same bullshit as when I was there? You know, all the politics and the changing of rosters and the backdoor deal, it's just same bullshit.
Honestly, I don't know because I haven't been a part of it for
You've
like
missed it. Oh yeah, fair
for
enough.
a couple of years. For a couple of years, I feel like. But yeah, I feel like it probably is, but I honestly can't answer that because I've just been a part of my own little group in making sure that we've been doing the right things, and then that's it, really.
What about Chelios? There was a bit of hype around that kid a while ago, wasn't there? He's still going. He's on that Roosters team you're talking about.
He's still playing well, but it's yeah, I don't know. Sometimes with Australian players, you can kind of point out what their highlights are, like what their strong points are really easily, and what their weaknesses are too easily. So with him, if anything, I'm sure he's very sharp, very smart, all that kind of stuff. But he has the exact same plays, and he's being pretty much gifted all the kills pretty much by his teammates.
Okay.
You can see that he's been dropped AKs. He's been able to run around like solo and just do the craziest thing he can do. And then he might get a kill, he might not. But that's the freedom he's been given, and you can't really think of those frags as the god tier frags that really matter.
All right. Have you guys looked into it all, trying to play against anybody from Southeast Asia? Like, are there any teams there that you? Because I know even back in the day, what we tried to do is get Perth servers and have people ping in from like Singapore and shit, and they'd get like 70 ping, and we'd get the other guys from my teams to ping on in over, and they'd get like 70 or 80 as well. Have you guys ever looked into trying to do shit like that, or is it just not worth it?
We tried to last year, but I believe there was a connection issue between
Yeah.
Perth and Asia, and basically the ping became 140.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really think that people don't understand like how people, if like they look at a map and they go, yeah, Australia's big. It's a big place, but it's the same size. Well, it's a little bit smaller, than the contiguous United States, right? So that's obviously not including Alaska and Hawaii and shit for those people playing at home. So like in America, to ping from one side to the other, it's crazy. It's the same in Australia, and we have less shit in the middle, so there's less like servers all over the place. So you're finding yourself pretty much isolated. I guess we had the New Caledonians for a little while playing in 1.6, but let's not go too far down memory lane. I'll get lost in nostalgia and start crying and shit. But Now with your team, you're obviously the star of the squad. I don't think there's too much debate right there. But the potential of your boys and just I guess the fundamental Counter-Strike that you're looking to play there. If you were competing on the world scale, you've obviously broken into the top 20. How far, like with this team, do you think that you can legitimately push it? I know it's a hard answer to give, but do you think that you guys could, break that top 15 mark? How far do you reckon?
Honestly, with our coach, like coming into the whole year, I definitely was just so excited just to just smash everyone, because I feel like there's a downside to playing in Europe too much, because everyone's going to know exactly what you do in the counter strategy and everything. But then I think we had that almost that fine balance of it. We just come in boot camp, no one knows us too much, and then just like play, and then we play an event and then surprise people. And that's what like felt like really good. And then we go back and then we just create new things. So I think like that whole like chemistry project was about to be just like so awesome for us before all this. But yeah, I think definitely we have what we need as a lineup right now to be in the top 15 exactly.
Okay, all right. So, like that, what you've just said there would lead me into my next question. If you guys had the offer, if an org came to you and said, or if Renegades came to you and said, "Hey, we're going to go put you in," and it was possible, visas weren't an issue, and you could live in Europe and compete like full time, is that something that you guys would want to do?
I think not so much, because there's so much opportunity in Australia as well. Like if this whole COVID thing wasn't a thing, like I think just we spend over 180 days in Europe easily, boot camping and all that kind of stuff. I feel like because we get invited to a lot of tournaments, and there's like the big major tournaments, and then if we want to go over and qualify for any like smaller tournaments, or like tournaments like, I don't know, ESL New York or something like that, then we could just go over and do it. But I feel like the way the league and the whole system is set up, it kind of really benefits us to stay in Australia.
Yeah.
And also it keeps our mentality really strong. We're able to stay home and be like with family, with loved ones, and that's a factor that you kind of really have to consider.
Yeah, no, you're bang on. During the self-therapy I was telling you guys about before we get stuck into the show, that's something which I've been missing a little bit. I think that to give up everything and to move for a passion is one thing, right? But if you can balance it, and like what you're saying, it is possible now. That transition has happened. It wasn't possible 5 years ago, right? You in Australia, there was fuck all events, weren't getting invited. You actually had to make and take those risks. But now I think you guys have obviously established yourself in a big enough way to make that a possibility. Now here's one before we close down the hot seat and move a little bit further forward into the recent news. Do you think you could beat 100 Thieves right now?
Ooh. With my ego, I have to say yes.
Okay.
But honestly, it's anything can happen. We've been every time we verse them, like coming from Australia, and then we play them at the what is it, Katowice 2019. Just everything we've been close every time. So it's interesting. We'll see. I'm sure that they're excellent. They're changing how they play a lot. But sometimes when you just verse an Australian team, it's just like, oh yeah, this whole panic system comes in, and it's like no one knows what to do, and everyone just goes full crazy and just starts running around trying to beat everyone in angels.
Yeah, okay. I think right now, like for me, when I look at it, it's like you and Justin, right? I like the two. Like if you were going to build an Aussie super team, if you're going to get like, if I was going to grab the two individuals and go, here's how I'm starting, it's like you two. And like maybe that's an exciting prospect for the future. We'll have some calls after this. Anyway, let's move forward. Let's go into the recent news, Lucas. Everybody's favorite topic, ladies and gentlemen. It is everyone's favorite. We are talking about MIBR, and I think
we should just get a bumper for MIBR, the MIBR segment.
Oh dear. Okay, Prof, take this one away, mate. I want to hear.
Look, obviously, I pushed this in exclusively to make fun of you, because we were talking about MIBR playing these like online cups in Europe, playing against Wisla Krakow, their first match, and you're like, they're gonna win that. Surely they're gonna win that. Surely they're gonna win that. And then I was like, you never know, man. And of course, they lose. So that's what I just want to gloat a bit. Not over MIBR, like to a degree. It's like I don't want to gloat over them anymore. They've touched their their bottom, I feel like. So it's just like past that point. But over you at this point, yeah, it's kind of good. And
Okay.
then also they lost a couple of other matches as well. So
Yeah, I'm just going to check it out. Give me 1 second here. I'm just bringing it up because, look, things are, for those of you who don't listen to the podcast on a regular basis, maybe you're a new listener. Maybe you're not so familiar with the downward spiral. Where are these guys rated in the CSPPA ranking, by the way?
number 8.
In 8th team in the world, as by the players, are on an absolute downward spiral, right? And it physically cannot get any worse for these guys, right? Not only are they having terrible PR, they're having terrible results. And that Mad Lions series, they won like 4 rounds or some shit in that series against Mad Lions?
I think it was like 7-8, but it's like less than 10.
Oh, there you go,
for
7.
sure.
It was 16-1 on Train, which was their map choice. And then the next one was Vertigo, and they lost 16-6. So, look, I didn't expect them to go over and for immediately things to be working, but it's like this fall from grace is very similar to like the Virtus Pro fall from grace, I think. Like just sticking with things, and they didn't change players obviously in the same way until the tail end when it all really started falling apart. But fuck, Dexter, you've been watching the Counter-Strike. You've been seeing how MIBR have gone. You were speaking a lot about Fallen and Cold Zero. What are you thinking? What are you thinking is going on over there?
Oh, I'm gonna say maybe it's a bit of the stress factor of having to just be away from their loved ones a lot. But I'm pretty sure I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure like their girlfriends and stuff travel with them quite a bit as well.
Oh,
But,
okay.
I was seeing them at LANs all the time, so I just assume they're just gonna be just chilling. Like, and I'm sure they're super rich guys as well, so they can just do
They
whatever.
can afford
but,
it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure like how the team kind of works. I haven't watched a demo of them for like at least a year and a half now, if anything.
Since you beat them at Sydney,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
There's like no point watching demos with these guys anymore. They lost to us, for fuck's sake.
I can give you a quick summary of the way that they try to approach the game, right? So on a lot of maps, they try and really crowbar in the double AWP setup on the CT sides, and then it changes on map base on who will be the primary AWPer for the team. So on Inferno, for example, they if they can get the double AWP, they'll run the double AWP, Fallen towards B, KNG towards A, and KNG would literally just have moves where he will try and either set himself up or get set up to find an opening pick, and he would just like posture mid until he can't anymore, and that's the way that they'll approach. And their banana setup is still just as bad as it was when we were talking about it years ago with like the Phelps and Fur situation, and they swap. Like it doesn't feel like that this team, with what they're trying to hold on to right now, are playing Counter-Strike the way the rest of the world is, at least across the board, right? And you don't have to if you can break the meta, if you can be a team like the Fanatics of the world, if you can run around and kill everybody like Vitality does, right? Like there's a bunch of teams who are able to play a different style of CS, but it feels like everybody else now is playing like the colors by number Counter-Strike, right? Like you break everything right down into all the details of this is our first progression. We take this area. Okay, this is what, you need to have the changes. It needs to be the pace change and all that kind of shit. It's a good balance now, but I can't. Prof, do you think it's just like an age thing? They just pass the use by date. Eventually the fruit goes bad. Uh-oh. Hello? Prof? He's muted. We lost him. All right.
I muted myself. All right, I blamed Lucas for this. He was typing something to me, so I had to type back. So, of course, no blame on me.
All right, blame Lucas.
Respect me. Respect my history here.
I was like,
respected.
Thank you. I see like a real guy over here. All you shitters in chat, no respect. What I wanted to say was, we were talking about MIBR, and what was the question again?
I was asking, what do you think the problem is? Do you think the fruit's just gone bad?
I mean, they are the oldest top 30 team, I think, and the only team that I think is older is Dignitas right now, or maybe not even when they added TRK, because TRK is also like kind of 24-ish or something, yeah. And Marin was there before, so that definitely doesn't help. Like, they are not getting better as individual players. That is it. Overall, all of those 5 players, they're not going to get better than they are now. So that is kind of a difficult thing to overcome when you're already like morally probably in a bad spot, and like tactically maybe you're not on par with the meta and everything that's going on. So that definitely doesn't help So I don't know. I don't know what else to say about MIBR, since we were talking about them more or less every week, right?
Yeah, you're right. We're kind of coming towards the end of the tether. I think that, like, the unfortunate case is, and you've seen it with the other scenes, right? You've seen it with the Polish scene. They're now trying to come back with some newer names, like Dihar and Snatchy are probably two of the better Polish players, and they're not from that generation of when the VP guys were good, right? Like that, it's different players, right?
But you have to take into account like how long that took VP. I mean, Poland to do, and at the same time, it's not like the whole Brazil scene sucks. You have Furia, which has a lot of the talent that is there. So it's gonna be weird. Like if you see, let's say, a year or two from now, you see another like super good Brazilian player come up, it's more likely that Furia is gonna pick him up when they need a change, because they're gonna change in a year or two. That is just like how CS works. It's more likely that they're gonna pick him up than MIBR. So I don't know. Like I was optimistic because MIBR has like a lot of backing and all of that, but they need to make some big money moves, and I think it's logical for them to try international stuff again.
Really?
I think that's probably the move.
Okay.
From like a year from now.
Who are you keeping there?
I don't know. Like I think you make that decision down the line, not today, probably.
All right. Well, we won't stick on MIBR for too long, but we will stay with Brazil. So let's keep moving forward. So yesterday I saw a Reddit thread, and
here we go.
Well, now that I'm back at work, what happens is, like, instead of being able to remove myself from everything, I just get really, really infatuated with it all, and not in like the good you're in love kind of way, in the I need to know everything that's going on. So I saw a Reddit thread and someone was like, please put back on LAN tournaments so that I don't have to watch online CS because it's boring. And I don't know how many of you have like traveled during COVID or understand what's happening in the world or even fucking look at the news. But the shit is still there, right? Like in Germany, in Cologne, I'm not going to lie, I lived here. It feels like it did when I lived here. People are out, people are doing things. People are going for walks, the bars are open, but everything is like open air, or you have to wear a mask, and everywhere you have to wash your hands. I go to a personal trainer a couple times a week, and he makes me wipe down all the shit in the gym. And before I go in, I've got to sanitize myself. I've got to, like the world is like skew-if. It's not as it was, but it's kind of as it was, right? As we were talking with Dexter before, Australia is locked down. My sister lives in Melbourne, the same place that you boys are in, and she can't do anything, right? Like her wedding, she's had to like postpone it. Everything is still like fucked in a way. Things are still fucked. Now, the idea of putting on a LAN event in Europe with a bunch of teams is probably possible, right? But at the same time, do you want to be the first tournament organizer to invest? You're going to have to invest a shitload of money. You're going to have to invest a shitload of money to make this happen, and then be the first one to risk it. And then you're going to have the players, probably in a city that they're familiar with, and try and get them who are not going to listen to you to stay indoors and not do the wrong thing. And imagine if someone gets sick, right? Can you imagine the liability that is going to happen, and the finger pointing and all the bullshit that's going to happen? Like, what is the point of doing that? Now, I've gone a long way of getting back to this point, but the news is that apparently Lucas and FNX with Imperial, right? They're playing with Showtime and stuff, right? If I believe rightly. I think. Anyway, they were meant to be going for a boot camp in Serbia. Now, we know MIBR's there now, and they've been able to get there okay. But Brazil, guys, I made a tweet a couple of weeks back, and it was received by the community in a way that I didn't think was going to be the case. You guys seem to think I have all this internal knowledge about what's going on behind closed doors. I know as much as you guys do about what's going on with the major. I have fucking no clue. But what I can tell you is that the state of the world, and especially in Brazil right now, just check the motherfucking figures, COVID is out of control over there. So just on COVID alone, I can tell you 100% that, like, it's impossible. How could it happen? In what world would you have to live in where you think we could go and have a major in Brazil? It's like if you said to me right now, oh no, we'll just change the location, we'll go to America. Are you guys fucking dumb? Like, America is another place that you can't even like travel into America right now because it's so fucked. Like, we want LAN, right? We want LAN. I guarantee you we want LAN. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm watching back the videos, like getting myself hyped before we're doing the show here in Cologne. And I'm listening to casting moments. I'm hearing the crowd and I'm like watching the videos. And then they put on this 8-minute long fucking segment before we kick off the grand final. And it's talking to fans. And it's like, oh shit, like there are other people who care about this just as much as me. And they go there to watch. Like, this is my job. I have the fucking privilege of getting paid. But these guys love it just as much as me. And I'm like, how did I miss that? And this is like a big deal for people in their lives and for players and all this. It's a big deal for everybody. We all want it to come back, but can we just use our fucking heads for a second and understand that this isn't an easy thing to get around? And this Lucas and FNX situation is showing you that it's real. This thing is real. I don't give a fuck what you think, or the conspiracy theories that you heard, or the protest that you fucking dumb cunt hillbilly hick motherfuckers think is going on. It's happening. It's happening. And just fucking deal with it. Anyway, I've had a long rant. I've got it out of my system. I woke up angry today. Fucking ex-girlfriend's making fucking tweets and shit. Anyway, fuck. Where are we at, Prof? Help me here.
Yeah, so like these guys aren't going to a boot camp. That was what we started talking about. That was kind of the topic, but okay, this is also fun. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think, like, I also was complaining about LANs, understanding that it's super difficult. Like, I would like it to happen, but like, people compare it to NBA, the difference is the NBA is literally owned by the teams that play in the NBA, and they only play in the NBA. And that is literally the only thing that they can play. They can't go play an NBA game, get like COVID, and then not be able to play another tournament. Like, it is their responsibility, and if something fucks up, they're the only ones that are gonna get the bad end of the stick, right? In the end, like, the players are putting themselves on the line. They are getting the money almost directly, right? With TOs like ESL or someone, I don't know, Counter Pit making a tournament, that is super complicated, because if you go to that event and then you get something, then you can't play in something else, and it's just a fucked up situation. Obviously, you can, the whole situation about, is the major even going to happen? Can Valve maybe do something? Can Valve make a bubble that lasts a month and a half? But I think the funniest thing would be what you mentioned at the beginning. Like, the TO would make a tournament, make a bubble, and then you'd have to control the players that they don't go out. You can't even control
their Twitters.
Imagine that, like, one player going out. Of course, someone would do it. No offense, but like, statistically, someone would do it, and just like historically how they act, I'm not sure that would work. And then someone gets it, and then it spreads. And is the TO responsible for that? Should they have like fucking like leg bracelets, like, I don't know, like jail people, prisoners, so you don't leave the hotel or something? It's very, very complicated. But I don't know from the other perspective what the fuck is gonna happen with this major. And like Dexter is playing 3 events to qualify for something that's not going to happen. So what's the point? How's that?
Look, I can't sit here and give you guys like an understanding of what's going to happen, because I truly don't know. But Valve postponed TI, right? TI is not happening. So if I just put on my fucking Sherlock Holmes hat and I sit and I go, what's the same company? I know they react differently with both of these things. I'm probably going to take a safe assumption that, at least with a global pandemic that is constantly changing literally on a weekly basis at this moment, with what's getting thrown around us, what's a cure, and can you get reinfected, and this and that and all those other things, like, nobody knows. So if you're think about it from Valve's perspective. We just put it on the table from a TO perspective. Imagine if you're Valve and you go, nah, you know what? Fuck it. We'll run the major. We'll put the major on. And it's the first LAN event back. So now what Valve have done is they have literally just forced all the players who want to go to the major, right, to take the risk from all over the globe to go to their event, because like they thought that they could pull it off. Now, if Valve would invest the same amount of money as what Riot are apparently doing with their League thing, like, I don't know, apparently they're doing the Worlds for League in China. That's what I've heard. I don't follow League. This is information I pick up on the fucking grapevine. Riot is owned by Tencent. I don't know if you guys understand how big Tencent is, but it dwarfs the rest. Like, imagine the entire Counter-Strike world getting swallowed. It's a little fucking baby fish getting swallowed up by a great white shark. These aren't even comparable things. Tencent, also China, right, pretty damn good relationship with the government, I would say. So they will actually be able to just, I don't know, get a hotel and actually do an NBA style bubble. We're not in even the same ballpark. We're not even like playing in the same league right now as what Riot are doing, right? Now let's even flip this. Dexter, right now, if you had the opportunity to go overseas and play, and you like as the world stood right now, is it a risk that you would take? Like, I've obviously traveled. It's a risk that I take because I know that I'm wearing my fucking mask. I've got the good ones with the fucking P2.5 things, and I'm washing my hands, and I'm not talking to people and stuff. Like, I don't, I want to avoid all that shit. But like, would you do it?
Personally, like, just because of like, it's probably biased because I've been locked down for like a good 5 months.
For sure.
So I probably would, because I just want to get out. But honestly, it's not a smart decision at all. I don't believe it is. Like, anyone's gonna just do that same decision. Like, and it's so bad from a company's point of view as well. So I'm just like, not too sure. Like, from financially, yes, and because I'm biased, I want to get out, yes. But in terms of just my consciousness saying if how smart I am, like, no, just I'm not going. No.
The thing is, like, for you guys as well, like, if we were to talk about this, if we were to bring this from a perspective of the Australian situation, and we can use this for a bunch of other, like, the North Americans probably have a hard time as well. I know that Obo and Russia are obviously within Europe. I don't know how they managed to get out and come back and stuff. But from the Australian perspective, like we're talking about, even if you guys were able to leave and go and play the major, the certainty of you guys being able to get back into the country now completely shifts. So then you now have to look at, well, how long do we stay in Europe for? Well, do we stay in Europe until the end of the year? When does Australia open the borders? What if Australia don't open the borders until, the middle of 2021? We can only stay away on an ESTA or a visa for 180 days. 90 out of 180 days. If we were in America, we could only spend 90 days there straight, and then we'd have to leave. It's like there's all these things which aren't considered, and we don't have the same reach with our game. Why are we getting into COVID so much? What am I fucking doing? Why am I doing this? Should we get away from COVID?
Yeah,
I think I've already fucking ranted enough. Fuck COVID. Let's talk about Counter-Strike. All right. Mouse Sports confirm the woxic benching and Bymas coming in, right? So they actually...
Did you see the headline? People are upset for some reason. Bymas
about?
said, unlike in FaZe, I'll get to play how I want in Mouse Sports with more freedom. So that's it. That's the headline. People upset. Apparently, not enough respect for the history, I guess. I don't know. People are just like, oh, you should be grateful you even got it. But if you read the interview, which you should if you want to make a judgment on someone's behavior and what he said, maybe just find that sentence and like see the context in which it was said. Because maybe you got the wrong context. Maybe you imagined something that isn't there. He was just saying like he was obviously playing all of his roles, didn't really have a great time, isn't really suited to do that, has no experience in Team CS. You need to like understand rotations in Team CS to do that. And yeah, it didn't work out. But he's happy for the opportunity and he learned a lot. That's essentially what he said. But people still called him trash and an idiot. So that's it.
So with looking at this roster here, did you get to watch much of Bymas playing when he was on FaZe, Chris?
I watched a bit of it, but I didn't like see him as a highlight player too much. I was just watching Brokey. He's like probably the most highlight player on the team right now. Yeah,
he was popping off in a big way. But I think Bymas, for me at least, was someone that was at least safe, right? There was obviously some moments where he looked out of his depth, but there's other moments where he looked perfectly serviceable. And the role that he was put in was not one that... Like, I know we were talking about before the experience situation, being one of the most highly overrated things, but for a 16-year-old kid having to play like a lurker role, experience is probably one of the bigger ones because of that factor of staying calm and knowing when to make those decisions and, playing off your teammates and the information that they're giving and stuff like that. That role is probably one of the more difficult ones. You're not just like a blunt object running in first, going for the entry frags or being flashed in and then you're just clearing. Like, it was a pretty difficult role for him to find him in, and it makes sense, right? It makes sense that they replaced him and now Kyobi's in there. But I don't know how he's going to fit into this Mouse Sports roster because if we look at the pieces and we have to make some assumptions, so carry-IGL's going to stay in-game leading. He
did say that he was going to be entry, just like what you said before. He is going to be like flashed in, go take fights. That is what he's going to be used for mostly.
So who do they shift where then, right?
I guess it's like the Chris J kind of role. So Chris J moves to woxic's role, which is the op, and then he goes first in with kind of Frozen. Chris J were the guys, and maybe Kerrigan sometimes as well. Kerrigan does his like plays, but I guess if you really want to kill someone, they would say send either Frozen or Chris J. No disrespect to Kerrigan, but he was more moving in to make space than to find frags, right?
Yeah.
Even though it sounded super disrespectful, but it wasn't. So
no, and I don't think Kerrigan would take it that way, right? Like what Kerrigan does on train with what they were doing for fucking 6 months, it felt like with the 5 and E-box smokes and him getting out there was just to make space and give information to his teammates, take a bit of pressure off of teammates. So, do you think this iteration of the mousesports roster, Chris, can get back to where they were, or do you think they're going to be in limbo for a bit, maybe need another roster change?
Ooh, I definitely think so, but it's definitely a hard one because I haven't watched them for a while as well, because just how much the online scene has made them kind of drop off, unfortunately. I feel like if they're all in the right headspace and they really want to just learn and they understand what each other want to do, then definitely they can have that space to just be that top team again. Definitely.
Yeah, I was obviously at the start of the year, Prof. You probably remember. I was not necessarily completely sold on mousesports. I know that they ground out like towards the tail end of last year, and a lot of tournaments had some big wins going on. But I was never completely prescribing to that. Is this another one of the situations that you think is how long does it go with Carrigan again until like the team loses faith? Because this is like the third time where things have looked good and then they've been unable to keep to those heights.
Yeah, I think also this is kind of not just a Kerrigan issue, more of like the pieces he has to work with, because I don't know, like you can make, if you put players in a good system, they'll perform better, and then the results will be better, right? And I'm not completely sure that in mousesports' case it's just the system that is an issue, because if you look at Frozen, like Frozen's individuals performances weren't that great. Then you also had woxic also falling off. It was literally just Rops that was staying on the same level. So I think it is a balance of like individuals not delivering, and then maybe a bit of like what the system was, because I was also getting frustrated watching some of their T sides being just like default walk into aim duels everywhere. So I don't know, maybe if with this kind of a roster, Kerrigan can approach it differently and then make it work better, because if you have so many good aimers, then of course you can go for like just aim duels everywhere and win most of the time. And maybe this will just be a time for him to reinvent everything and deliver. But I think this is not the roster mousesports will have in like 6 months.
Okay, wow. All right, so potentially more roster changes on the cards. We're going to keep this one moving. We have to finish on time today, ladies and gentlemen. We do have, Lucas has a lot of jobs he has to do. Martin keeps him working very hard for about $3 an hour. So let's keep this one moving forward. Now, the coach bug situation. We probably won't get stuck into this one too much, but we should talk about it. Now, it was Lord, I believe, of old Polish fame, of the Golden Five, who made a tweet, the 1.6 Golden Five, for those of you youngsters out there who are like, Lord wasn't on the team. Now, this coach bug, I believe if I was reading it, when the round was restarted, and if you're alt-tabbed or something, you come back in and the camera is like frozen somewhere, and you can see an area of the map like Cypher in Valorant, right? That's maybe a good way of putting it for all of you FPS players out there. Prof, did you read into it any more than that?
Yeah, that was more or less it. It came out like something that happens pretty rarely, but people, after he said that, oh, this happened to me as well, blah blah, and it was fixed literally the next day, allegedly fixed by Valve literally the next day.
Didn't another bug happen when they did it?
And then they made like 7 other bugs happen like super frequently. And then the discussion kind of started about it, like, have people been using it? Some admins came out and mentioned some things that if people were abusing it, that it could be like pretty damning.
Yes.
Because literally you could just get info as a coach from any, not like any position, but that one position that you're in. So you can see if someone is gamble stacking, where the rotations are, how they're reacting to like a flash or smoke. That's that's literally cheating. That is nothing else to say there. If you can see where players are that you shouldn't be able to see, that is cheating. Even though you're not installing any like third-party stuff, you're essentially having almost a wall hack that your coach can then tell you what is going on.
So let's talk about it from this angle for a second. Did you know this existed, Dexter, before the tweets came through? Was this a bug that like Mythil was like, oh yeah, this exists? Like, obviously not saying he used it. I'm just saying, like, was it something that was familiar with you guys?
No, we just pretty much, it came out on the day that we were playing our like finals, best order, I believe, and we just didn't think it was that common. So we played first map, and then it literally happened 6-7 times where Mytho had to reconnect just so he didn't see the whole site. But thankfully, he's like a good person and doesn't want to cheat and all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty crazy that it's just like any other team that's just in this online environment could just be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna win some money, just stay there. You can see the whole B site or whatever. Then yeah, it could be bad.
Couple of freebie bits of information right there.
I just want to say, it's some guy in chat wrote, is Alex on the Vitality bench or free agent? And literally Alex replied in Twitch chat saying he's benched with huge buyout. Just a small piece of trivia. I found it funny, so shout out, man.
Oh, it's good to see Alex in here. Hopefully we get to talk about him soon. He maybe can come back and the Counter-Strike realms for all of us. But on this coaching thing, just quickly, I suppose what we need to discuss from a morality standpoint is where would we put this? Where would we say that this comes into the lines of cheating? Is it as bad as it's obviously not as bad as somebody using like an aimbot or something along those lines, or like a radar hack or anything like that. But do we still put it in that category? What do you think, Prof?
This is one of the things where you know how the community will react. It's going to be literally pitchforks and, I don't know, fire and everything, because people like to go super hard on any form of cheating. But it obviously has to be somewhere like on a scale between like the big coach and then the big jumping bug, let's say. That is on one side. Where's my hand? Here. And then on the other side, you have like aimbot. And then this is going to be somewhere in between. And we need to find where that is and decide how, if people use this, how it would be punished. Because obviously it's not a VAC bannable offense. You're not going to be banned from major events forever. But you could be banned for a year. I don't know, maybe. I don't think that's like a super crazy thing to put out there and then start the discussion if it's too much or too little.
Now, before I ask you the same question, Dexter, I have this tweet up on screen here from Michał Slovinsky. Now, for those of you who don't know Michał, he used to be over there at ESL, and as far as I'm concerned, he's one of the best in the business to ever do it, ever be a League Ops man. And he said here, this is a tweet he made the other day, CSGO coaching bug that allowed coaches to gain unfair competitive advantage, in brackets, a static view of a certain position on the map, has been a part of the game since day one of introducing the coaching feature. It was fixed in 2017, but it seems to have returned at some point last year. He follows it up with, you hear more about this now simply because all the matches are being played online nowadays. Yes, bang on, because the coaches are actually in the game with them as opposed to on LAN where they would just be behind them. Other than a few events that we've had previously, I know like E-League had a station for coaches and stuff like that. You hear more about this now simply because all the matches are being played online nowadays. Don't worry though, it's not undetectable and there's a way to check if someone has abused this glitch. And if you did, it's probably as bad as cheating, so good luck. Now, I think that if you used it and you're playing at a high level of Counter-Strike and you're getting paid and you're a coach and the players were complicit, guys, that's fucked. That is disappointing on a level of morality. That's the problem there, because the integrity of the game is the one thing that we need to be trying to protect at all costs, and it starts with us. It starts with the players. It starts with the coaches. It starts with the boots on the ground. Like, you can't. We get an opportunity to play a video game for a living, for thousands of people to watch for good money. And I understand that, people want to win. Winning feels great and losing feels like shit. But at the end of the day, the only person that you're cheating is yourself. Like, and that sounds ridiculous, right? But you're actually stealing from yourself, because the way that you will feel about this in the future, depending on the ramifications of what happens to you, is not worth the temporary glory that you may feel from getting a victory.
But that's the thing. I don't think anyone thought, if someone used it at this moment, it's not public that anyone used it, that anyone got caught, but potentially it is going to be revealed, maybe. So let's just presume that someone is going to get caught. He probably didn't think he could or would get caught by doing that. And players, as they are players, coaches in this situation, but they're probably, a lot of them ex-players, want to get every edge to win. So you go into like these small bug abuse. Like at some point, people are like, one-way smokes are bullshit. Like you shouldn't be using that. But then we realized we can't really stop people from doing it, so we're just gonna accept it. And people just push that boundary and go to like, okay, I'll just use this. I'll have teams pick issues when I need to have like a tactical timeout, and all of these things that are kind of like small things. And then you go and you do like a big thing, which if someone did this, will have like great big ramifications. And then they'll only be sorry because they got caught, not because they did it. I don't think that people work like that.
Dexter, what do you think in terms of like the punishment that might come through? If you had to theorize, if you had to think about this from like a DreamHack, ESL, Flashpoint, Blast perspective, and you had to think about it from a Valve perspective, obviously they make different decisions. Just look at the Steel situation. Like, what do you think would be the punishment, or should be the punishment?
I honestly just hate it. It's just like, I think you're just a piece of shit if you're fucking using it for any reason. Obviously for cheating, but like, yeah, it's just straight up cheating, and just, I think you should just be banned, and then just like, you're just gonna have a stain on your team, the org, your own name, everything. Like, because then if the players are like still listening and then just being chill with it, like that's even worse. Like, it's on those 5 players just to be like, no, you shouldn't be doing that, get him off. But yeah, I think it's just like a year ban, as Prof said, or something like that. I think it's terrible.
Yeah, I have a feeling that like Valve will have to be involved in this situation, and I don't think that, because do you guys all remember at the start of the year when the online stuff happened and there was like the email, like the whole thing to do with the coaching situation of whether there was going to be coaches or no coaches?
Mm-hmm.
So like Valve were the ones who were asking, should we have coaches? And it ended up with a decision to have coaches, obviously. And now that this has happened, like people have, there's obviously no rule because we didn't think it was possible, but like there's rules of playing fair, and that's not playing fair. So
I mean, if this bug was known like widely, if it was the knowledge of this bug was known, I think people would probably vote against having coaches on the server. I think that would be a logical thing to do. Just to avoid any chances of stuff like this happening. But obviously, until Lord tweeted it, apparently no one talked about it, no one knew about it. I didn't. I certainly didn't.
I had no idea.
I didn't think it was a thing at all until literally a couple of days ago. So yeah, I don't think anyone was really using it or abusing anything until like now, until it's become a thing.
Now I'm going to make a statement. Actually, I'm not going to make a statement. I'm just going to say, shit's about to get real fucking sticky with this, ladies and gentlemen. So hold your fucking hats, because as we move into this next week, it's about to all fucking blow up. Anyway, I'll leave you on that bombshell as we move into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So play it in, Lucas. All right, we're back. I was checking my phone. No one loves me. So maybe I'll have a message after the next bumper rolls. But let's talk about what's just happened, because we're doing the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to be starting with the good. And the good is obviously heroic winning the ESL One Cologne European Finals. I think that's a remarkable thing when you consider the members of this team, what was expected of them. Cadian called me out live on air. We didn't even talk about their team on the last show. Chris, I want to start with you. Did you? I know it's obviously very late when the finals are going on, but did you catch any of the heroic games in the lead up to the finals or the finals itself?
The only game I watched was the G2 heroic one, and from that game, I can kind of understand how they were playing and how other teams were playing very easily.
So, what did you make of at least the style that heroic were coming in with?
From what I saw, heroic, at least on the Vertigo game, they were doing everything like precisely. This is what we want to do. This is the reaction we want, and then we're gonna abuse this reaction on this other side, and it worked for G2 every time. And then G2 were winning at one point, but then I think they had some just major communication and just panic issues, and which lost them the whole entire game, and therefore maybe even the whole tournament.
That was like the 3-4 overtime game, right?
Yeah.
Where they had
like they had match point and a 4v2 on A, and then just pushed and died randomly. And it was
someone said, "Oh, let's go." They're planning, and then all of them just ran one by one and died. And I 100% know one of them just like, "Oh, let's go." One's planning. Let's go. And let's just end it now. And nah, that's not how you do it. And there was no one being calm in that situation, saying, "Guys, relax. Wait, let's kill this guy." And then, oh yeah, there's a guy over there. Kill him. Nah, everyone just like, go.
This is literally kill two guys, not even looking at him. They're just so focused on the planting guy. Let's go on him. The guy's just like, two guys are here. I'll kill Kenyes, killing Hunter. Now it's a 2v2. Suddenly it's super winnable. And then like 2 overtimes later, they win the game. They win the map and like barely win the series, but still they win it.
Yeah, so having a look, obviously I had the pleasure of getting to watch that all firsthand and do a little bit of casting with it and analyzing it live and all that fun stuff. And I was very impressed just with the detail and how poised they stayed. Now, the caveat is that they're in their bedrooms and, it's a bit more of a relaxed environment. We all know that, but don't get me on the spiel about this is the world we live in and this is the way it is. But they basically had that consistency of play throughout the entire tournament. And what really impressed me when we got to the final was Stown, as the one who I looked in that team as the biggest superstar, stepped up when he had to on that game of Inferno. Now, Prof, did you catch the final?
Yeah, most of it. I maybe missed some rounds here and there, but I saw a bunch of highlights down rounds. Actually, a few highlight Borup rounds as well.
Yes.
That is a guy that I went to check his age, and he's 20. I'm like, this guy's been around for so long. How is this possible? But okay. He had a lot of highlight round. Tesses as well. We all remember him standing in for North, having a disastrous tournament. I think it was Pro League or something when they used him. And now it's under God HUNDEN, literally rejuvenate, new player, completely new player, super, super good. But yeah, Stown also looked kind of shit for the last 6 months before HUNDEN arrived. He was this is one of those guys, he was the Broline generation, but the Danish version of that, and we expected him to go to better things. Did not happen until now. So good shit. Just everyone's doing better out of a sudden, which is nice.
Yeah, as a team, right? I think when you look at the way that I explain them, and I kept overusing the term, and that's because I need to read more of my vocabulary shit. But every player on that team was like a safe pair of hands. You expect those guys, when you see every one of those names, if you put them in a position, you're pretty sure that they're going to get a kill, right? That's the way I would look at that squad. And then having Cadian as the most experienced member, right? That in itself is just it's a wild thing to think about, doing the AWPing, doing the in-game leading, and they were able to play just a really solid brand of CS. And I think if we tie this in to the big run and now the heroic run, and then earlier in the year the complexity run, the one thing that I think all three of those names have in common is just the level of work that they're putting in regardless of the situation we're in, right? They obviously haven't felt the same highs of arenas and all that kind of stuff as what the big names have. So they don't really know what they're missing out in the same way. They just want to win. And for them, a lot of the Counter-Strike that those teams were playing before was mainly just online CS. And that's not me saying they're onliners. I just mean they're more used to being in this environment right here. So I asked Cadian in the post-game interview, I said, mate, people are, you know what they're going to say. I know what they're going to say. What are you going to do? And the response he gave me was, I've got an ESL 1 Cologne trophy and they don't. And that's the truth of the matter, right? this is it. Like they played good Counter-Strike now, and we're going to remember the Counter-Strike they played now because there's nothing on the horizon that I can see that is going to be different from this. So, in terms of the good, all I can do is sing the praises. I don't know. Do we want to jump in too much on the heroic thing? Because it is just it's just thumbs up. I don't know.
I'll just add one more thing. I played a game of Face It on Sunday a week ago. I was matched against Nico from Heroic and Yugi for some reason, and I had my creation stack. Of course, we lost 2 elo. But just saying, from that point onwards, Nico did not lose a single series. So I'm just guessing like he got the confidence after beating me and Bercho and on Face It, on Mirage of all maps. We all know that's like our home map, like no one could beat us there. He destroyed us, and after that, just like straight wins. Fnatic going down, FaZe, G2. who are these guys in the final? I have no idea. Some Zaiwu kid, doesn't matter. But like Nico is kind of those guys that I believe that. I think Kadian even mentioned it after the final. He's like, he's so confident, doesn't really care who he plays against. I feel like he had that vibe. Even playing against myself, like he wasn't scared at all. So you could see pushing all the time.
Okay, well, yeah, good stuff for Heroic, and I hope they can continue it. They're obviously in the grand finals of DreamHack Summer. You got anything you want to say about that team, Chris? You got any Heroic comments you want to make?
All I really know is just they're just absolutely playing beautiful Counter-Strike. No matter from what I saw, like every death, even if they died, like there was a purpose and there was a gain out of it, and someone always like ended up winning the round for them because they're just making good decisions off that death. So I think they're just playing like really good CS right now.
Yeah, they didn't do it in the way of just having one guy carry them or seem like crazy onliners just running around headshotting. It was actual good CS, and that's what we want. That's what we love. And we're going to move into the bad. Now, I don't know, like, when we say bad, I don't think we mean bad in Vitality or bad, but what we mean is it's not fully clicking right now for Vitality. Now, this is probably on the other end of the spectrum to what we were just saying about beautiful CS. And I talk about them in the broadcast, and I say, it's a bit more scrimmy, it's chaotic. And I read some comments of people saying that I wasn't doing enough justice to their play style. But when you compare the way that they approach the game to the way Heroic approached the game, there's a stark contrast there, right, Prof?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, even the way we saw Heroic literally beat them is that like super meticulous in some ways and abusing things that, like the Inferno game where constantly Heroic was able to just overpower Banana, get like 2 kills almost every round, and literally there was no response from a tactical point of view from Vitality to stop that or to do something else if you can't stop that. They were just like forcing what they had and unable to adapt to it. There's like their response is, okay, let's throw Zaiwu with the op there. And the same thing happened that when they had like 3 other players there, the first 2 died, and then they executed on the site with like 1 smoke and 2 flashes, like a fast take, but still not rushing into the site and dying to like the one guy hiding there. So yeah, obviously massive difference in the way they approach the game.
So when you watch a team like Vitality playing, Chris, do you see the details that I'm not talking about, right? Like they obviously have good trading. The stats reflected that. They have good flash assists in the tournament, but their style seems a lot more, the way that Threat described it was high variance. Like how do you look at a team like Vitality and categorize them?
Well, right now, like I think their whole lineup kind of relies on their explosive power a lot more than anything. So if the explosive power doesn't work, which I'm pretty sure Heroic would have counter-stratted a lot, being like, just negate all this without utility in Banana or something in Inferno, that means that Zyro doesn't work. If Zyro doesn't work, Shox doesn't work because Shox is supposed to clutch those rounds with the space he has, and I'm pretty sure he didn't get enough space or anything like that. And then that whole game plan for Heroic definitely destroyed them pretty much. And they'll have to kind of relook into how they want to approach these situations. If we want to slow it down a bit more and just be sure that we're like reading the money right, so that we can make good decisions into the early round to the late round and all that. So that's what I noticed from them.
No, it's good because like when a current player says similar things to what I say, it makes me feel like less of a imposter on air. Because the thing is, I watch all this stuff, and I am hoping what I am seeing is what other people, especially the professionals, are feeling and experiencing. Because if I'm out there and I'm selling the wrong, bar of soap to people, I'm doing myself a disservice. So like that's a very similar way as I look at Vitality, that they have these very high highs. And I talk about Apex obviously as an in-game leader from the past generation, and he's kind of carried across his volatile style. You were talking about it earlier, Prof, with his the peaks and stuff that he's talking about. He was the guy on their side during Force Buys buying the Scout, right? Like I know that doesn't necessarily correlate with going aggressive with picks, but it also doesn't necessarily correlate with the in-game leader in a role. Whereas that you have Zywoo on the team, like they were probably trying to give him more the AKs and rifles. So I get all that stuff that's going on, but I just found that like a little bit quizzical of like the approach that he's going for. I feel like Apex is really giving himself more of a carrigan role in the team. Like he's happy to throw away his life so that the others can come out and do what they need to do. And Apex is still obviously mechanically, I think he's still a good player. It must just be like this balancing act right now for them to get across the line. But they made it all the way to the final, Prof, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, like we can criticize them from the perspective of Vitality as a team, where they are like consistently being like a top 5 team through all of this like online era, more or less. But they did not win a single title. Like they lost the last 3 in the final, all of them to teams you would not expect them to lose to, like a certain degree. Like they're either like a overwhelming favorite or like a fairly big favorite. Never like Complexity, Heroic, and Big. Like all 3 of those you would expect Vitality at the time to win, right? So from that perspective, it's kind of disappointing. But just roll back to this position to the time when Apex took over the in-game leading, and from that perspective try to say like them being top 3, top 4, finishing in 3 finals in a row is bad. I think no one would say, like everyone would sign that instantly, because I was super skeptical of Apex doing like any good job as an in-game leader. So if their only problem is like performing in the grand finals, and maybe I don't know why they lost to 3 different teams that were kind of like pretty different in their approach. It's not like one thing that ties Heroic, Complexity, and Big. Like there is still room to improve. So I think they are not, and nothing to laugh about, nothing to like overly criticize, but it is just sad for them to lose in the final again.
Yeah, and I was actually, singing the praises of Apex for being able to make a team work around his style and approach to the game. And then the final, they were playing much slower. They had really, really slowed things down, and that didn't look like their comfort zone. As soon as they had changed the pace a little bit on Inferno, map number 2, also I think their veto was shit. Like, I don't know why they didn't pick Overpass or Vertigo.
I mean, even Caden said it after the thing. He was like, if we didn't close it in 3, it would be pretty dangerous.
So I think like Vitality maybe just stumbled over themselves a little bit in getting into that final, because RPK has been playing some great CS, right? I think there's no doubt about that. Shox as well, going into that final, who's the 4th highest rated player in the tournament. Zywoo was number 1. Masuta, he had some wobbles kicking off Inferno. I think he was 0 of 5. Then he came alive and was finding a lot more impact. And then Apex, obviously, quite in flux. But I think that I relate their style to one of when Zeus was on Na'Vi, and they were just doing all those Force Buys with Simple, like making sure always Simple and Electronic were getting like dropped Eagles on like the eco rounds, or they were getting dropped the AKs, and I kind of look at them doing strengths in a similar way. And you can look at the NIP game, the way the last round of Overpass finished. Shox bought into a Galil, Zywoo had an AK, the rest of them just had Glocks, and they literally just had Masuta running around just baiting with a Glock so that they could trade out with these rifles, and they made it work, right? So you have to look at the team and go, the style, it is very reliant on the individual showing up, but the individuals are showing up to get them to the final. Now, it's not the type of Counter-Strike I necessarily love watching, but if you're able to get to the finals, then you have to be doing something right. So maybe it's just a matter of, I don't want to say more experience, because they obviously have a lot of experience on that roster. It's probably just more a matter of doing what you said, Chris, and getting a little bit more comfortable with playing more styles of Counter-Strike, right? Like, do you think as an in-game leader that nowadays it has to be like what is your mixture when you look at things from an in-game leader perspective? Do you think you can just get away with the slow style? You can get away with just the force buying? What's your take?
I feel like, yeah, you definitely have to have a mixture because if we went overseas and we versed a European team like consistently all the time, they'd have a good idea of like, we're playing super slow. Let's either save utility and then let's do the setup in the late round, and we know the setup's going to work versus them. So I feel like, if anything, based on what you said, like if they were playing slow in the Inferno game or whatever game, then that might have been the wrong decision from their end because they're just trying to like overthink their situation a bit too much. Then they're just being like, oh yeah, we should just like change it up. And I think these guys won't expect any of this. And then next minute they're versing freaking like heroic, I'm sure, like screaming Danish teams a lot or whatever European teams, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're used to this. We're just gonna do what we think's gonna work.
Yeah, that was my take as well on it. I look, when I saw them being more decisive on Inferno and they were like having 4 guys walk up mid with RPK, solo banana controller, they get banana controller, just execute B. They look better. They looked much better. But we're going to keep it moving. We're going to go over to the ugly right now. This one right here that we're gonna talk about, guys, is to do with the 100 Thieves and their struggles recently. Prof, how bad has it been?
Oh, I was looking at their matches, and their last win against a top 10 team, so that's like Liquid, Fury, IG, was in April.
Yes.
So since then, they only beat like Cloud9, Triumph, Genji, yeah, those teams. So that is almost 4 or 5 months now. That is kind of fucked.
Okay.
That is a warning sign in my eyes. They had some close games, but when you look at it like that, you can always maybe I presented something that's the worst, but that is what I was looking for. I was looking how they are faring against teams that they last year were either beating or were kind of, I don't know, on par with, right? And that is kind of difficult, I think.
I'm just having a look now just to see like how the stats are trending, because obviously we know JKS is the star of the team. Everybody, obviously, they've been doing more Counter-Strike within the North American region. The KD difference is not great on Grat, Liaz, and Azza, but Grat and Liaz still have a positive rating just. And then it is Justin up towards the top, and then Jacob in number 2, and Aaron's down the bottom there. Now, in the past, when they've played their best Counter-Strike, it's come off the back of long boot camps within Europe, and that's definitely been taken away from them. But look, maybe I want to pivot the conversation in this way, Chris, because you've obviously you're quite familiar with Grat. Do you think that, like, what do you think? I don't know how many of their games that you watch, but with Grat, do you think they should be getting more out of him in the team?
I feel like probably because I reckon he's one of the most like smartest AWPers I've ever played with and talented.
Okay.
I'm just not sure about the whole system, not even the system of the team, but like the system of the environment they've got going on. Because obviously, to bring back the COVID thing, it's just like the fact I talked to Grat Sean, and it's just like after the break, and he was just like, yeah, they didn't really do much because they were just stuck in their homes and whatnot, and whatever. But like, I'm pretty sure in America you can at least go out and go do some stuff. And I don't feel like they got that sense of a holiday compared to a lot of the other teams and whatnot around the world. So I feel really bad for them, if anything, because there's 5 of them just stuck in different land that they aren't really used to. So I feel like that could have been a massive factor in how they want to approach the game, and they have to freaking verse NA teams constantly, and that's just probably even worse.
Okay. So if it is just from that mental standpoint, obviously the mentality of 100 Thieves in the past is something we have discussed as potentially being a little bit of a problem with them getting over the line. So you think it's overall just a bigger problem of the current circumstance as opposed to the makeup of the team needing a change?
In my opinion, yes. If everything went back to normal and they got to the European boot camps and they got their like holidays and everything like that, I think they'll just be a top team once again, like that simply, honestly. Because they've got a new coach, a very calm and like decisive coach, and I think like that whole environment can be extremely good just for making a team what it is.
All right. So Prof, do you think that like that there, if they go the rest of the year staying in this boat, you think that the team can mentally survive that? Because I saw some stuff from Nadeshot. I didn't actually. I was more reading comments with it as opposed to actually watching it because I'm one of those people who just reads the front of magazines. But it was the sentiment I think was along the lines of that he's not happy that the teams aren't winning and that 100 Thieves is looked at as more as just like a fashion company.
I think there was a clip. I don't know the exact thing you were talking about, and I don't think I saw that, but I think there was a clip about him, like 100 Thieves losing to Chaos, and there was off his stream, and someone said that to him, and he's like, "Who are Chaos? Who did my team just lose to? I don't even know who these people are." Which, I mean, if you at least you know Steel, you should know Steel, but still. It is a difficult thing. Probably not happy with the results, but at the same time, they are a clothing company. Like, isn't that their like high point? Isn't that what they're kind of pushing forward more than anything else? That they are a company that works smartly and monetizes smartly through like clothing and other things that they have. I thought that was what they were proud of. Of course, they want to win championships, but they're also doing this like a kind of a priority almost.
Sure, and obviously the time makes it a little bit weird. We've spoken about the potential roster changes and stuff like that in the past during COVID, and how when you are an international team like they are, to be moving pieces around like that and be sending people home or bringing people over, and it's a lot more difficult. But I would say that even though 100 Thieves is, multifaceted in their approach to the esports world or the gaming world, I guess we can call it. They do a lot of content. They obviously have popular streamers on there. They obviously push this exclusive apparel, not merchandise. But you would still apparently that's what it's apparel, not merchandise. All right. That you would still want to be getting something for your money, right? And no offense to my boys, but none of those motherfuckers have a big personal brand, right? They're not doing anything for 100 Thieves if they're not winning. It's not like JKS is on the podcast every week and he's doing content and doing social media stuff or streaming. It's not like Liaz is out there doing a cooking show. Like they're not.
They're those players when you open their Twitter, it's like 1-0 versus FaZe, 2-1 versus Fnatic. 0-2 end of the road better. It's like I just opened your HLTV stat page, look at your recent matches, and that's a Twitter. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So like, and look, I'm not saying that anything's going to happen with them because I don't know. But when you factor in that from an organizational standpoint, you're not getting return anywhere. Like I think now I'm speaking out of my ass. You guys can all correct me, but like Pobelter was in their League of Legends team, I think, and Pobelter within League of Legends is like a relatively big name, and I think somebody who knows how to use himself on social media and stuff. I don't know if he's still there anymore. He probably isn't. But like they're probably getting worth back from him because he's a name that's advertising their brand. Whereas if the boys aren't winning, well, they're not really stimulating anything. So I'm just curious as to how long that they can stay in this pit before changes look to come through. And I don't think that they'll just throw them away, but questions need to start getting asked at some point. Now, if it is just what you were saying, Chris, and it's the environment, well, we can't change the environment at the moment. So I don't know. I don't know where the solution is. If you can just make sure that the boat doesn't tip over between now and the end of the year, that's all right. But
they just need to go on a long camping trip together. Honestly, just get out of the house, go to a camping trip, no internet, no nothing, and then just go relax, and then come back, new state of mind. You've just been camping, surviving in the wilderness, and you're good. Honestly, I reckon that would work.
Yeah, just like stepping away from it all. Well, they also, I know Justin and Aaron quite well. When we were in the team, the only thing those two wanted to do was play Counter-Strike. So like now they're obviously a bit older. Hopefully they have a few more things going on in life. I speak to Justin every now and again, asking what he's keeping up to and stuff. And it's just one of these things where like if I was gonna look at it without any of the context of the environment they're in, you'd say, okay, well, we've got JKS. He's our star. We've got Jacob. He fills the second rifler star role pretty well. Our Orpa, while we hear good things about him in practice, he's not really fulfilling that role to the highest of the level. So maybe, we change the AWPer, or maybe we have had enough of Azza being the in-game leader. Maybe we look at, bringing in a new in-game leader. Like, there are solutions to the team if they wanted to go down that way, but it's also one of those ones which is probably seen as a little bit more fragile because of who they are and where they're from. Prof, do you think we'll see a roster change in this team anytime soon?
I kind of feel like they'll just stick with what they have and see until the end of the year. I don't know why. It's just my feeling. I have no information at all. They probably.
It's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible if they want like Australian players, definitely, or if they want to kick someone that's from Australia. I mean, he can go back, but this is just expensive. That will also kind of suck. So I think they stick together for a bit at least.
Yeah, I just worry about like the mental side, like Chris is saying, weighing on them too much, because like once it fractures, like once someone goes too far in one direction of like being like, fuck this, like it doesn't matter if the overall picture is that this is just the issue we're in right now. It's gonna be really hard to bring them back together. And like, you got to think about where their highs were at, like the Starlighter Major last year. That's a year ago now.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a year ago. That's a long time. Anyway, I'm going to try and coach their Valorant team, so we'll see how we go with that one. We got anything else on 100 Thieves?
No.
All right, let's have a quick talk about Liquid here. They made it to the grand final against EG, and one of the best rounds of Counter-Strike I think I've seen in a long time. Was
pure chaos.
I love it. That's what the thing is. Casting the European stuff, right? Like it's slow, it's methodical, it's beautiful CS, but you never get like the crazy hype moments, and you feel that in the way, because now I'm getting an opportunity to cast a little bit more. I'm basically just doing live analysis while the other two do the play-by-play, but you feel it in the tone of the game. So that round, if you guys missed it, I think Launders put it up on his Twitter. I retweeted it. Go check it out. It was fucking sick. But Liquid now, Dexter, they've obviously added Grim. Nitro's gone out. Stewie's taken over the in-game leading. And we have Moses coming in as a coach. Do you think those moves, first of all, were needed for them? Do you think they had stagnated a bit?
I definitely think they have stagnated. It feels weird to me, like, because we always ended up, like, my team always ended up beating like teams like SK, and then we beat Liquid, and then from that point onwards, it was just like downhills when they were like number one in the world. So it's like a weird curse that we put on ourselves that, like, yeah, if we beat you at one of these events, you're like your career is like kind of like going downhill, which is pretty funny. But I feel like Stewie like has what it takes to be like an in-game leader, but in terms of what I saw from him and how it affected his own skill level, it was pretty like hard to watch in that context.
It didn't start that way. His first couple of games were good. The final though, it was weird.
Yeah, it could be just a pressure thing. Like he's not used to it, like as Nitro might have been. And then it just like it was so just unfortunately so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So Prof, like with them in the final against EG, it was competitive. Were you expecting that?
Looking at the history of like the recent history of EG beating everyone almost and having some like blowout wins as well, I kind of expected EG to roll with it at least in 4 maps. But it ended up going all 5. So from that perspective, good job on Liquid for at least making it that close. I did actually fall asleep in the 5th map because best of 5s lasted like 7 hours and it was 3 a.m. And when I fell asleep, Liquid was leading like 10, 11, 6 or something on Dust 2, and I thought like, okay, this is happening. And then I don't remember anything. Obviously fell asleep. I think from Liquid's point of view, what I saw was kind of the issues that I saw were exactly what I expected, and that is the opping is not great. Like neither Naf nor Stewie impressed me really in what they were doing. I felt like Cirque was, whenever they were like taking op on op duels, it was Cirque that was dominating. And when you overall looked at the map, the most impactful opper was Cirque all the time. And then I also saw people tweeting about it on Inferno, like Liquid's T side looked like something I would call. It was like, okay, let's take time. We take banana, then we take top mid, and now we make a decision where we go. And then we go all together. And I was like, that does not work. Like, you need a bit more unpredictability, I feel like. They were playing too defaulty, and it was like very uninspired in the way. So the calling at some points was also not sure how that went. Those are the two main issues for me. And it's difficult because it's exactly what you thought would be the issue, and it is the issue. So I'm not sure how they can fix it moving forward with this roster, right?
Yeah, look, it's just the beginning though. So I think some of the sentiments that Moses was giving us on the broadcast was it's the fundamentals of what they're focusing on right now, which it seems a bit strange that got so far away from them, considering how good they're. Well, I know they're mainly individually based, but you'd think their communication and things like trading and stuff still would have been quite high, and the utility usage at one point was fantastic. I don't know if the AWPing thing will be their downfall once they work on their style. Because they made it work before without a primary AWPer, right? Like, I know Nitro was doing it, but he was doing it more out of like a utility than out of like a star AWPer. So I think they have enough individuals on that team, like Elige, Twists, obviously Stewie being pretty mad, going for entry kills. I don't know how Grim is going to slot in the long run. I think it's a good stepping stone, and I didn't expect them just to go from this change to being like the best in North America. I think right now EG have them covered in a firepower department across the board. Yeah, actually, I'll stick with that. I was going to maybe waver a bit because Tarek's playing some really good CS at the moment. I think he was probably one of their weaker links. For the moment, yeah, I think Liquid are probably on course for where they need to be. But we're going to get an opportunity to talk about that probably a bit more in the future. We're going to have a lot of Counter-Strike coming up over the next couple of weeks. What we'll do now is we're going to jump forward. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we will be moving into Pro League starting tomorrow. I don't think they've done a talent announcement yet, but I'm still in Cologne, and I guess you guys know what that means. I'm going to be doing Pro League for fucking however many weeks it is. So that'll be fun. One of the things, you're going to have to listen to my nonsense. And we're going to have a bit more fun because it's going to be long. So you guys better be used to that. But anyway, round robins. Prof, how or why? Well, actually, I can tell the why. Why? Can you tell everybody at home? I can tell you why round robin has come back. You tell everybody at home why it's bad.
I mean, it's bad because there are so many matches that either are pointless or feel pointless, which then makes them pointless or less important. Maybe not fully pointless, but you never know, like, if this godsend ends second round match is gonna be end up mattering anything or not. So then you don't have the excitement from a GSL or for a Swiss or anything where, if you lose this one game and you lose one more game, or if this is the second game, you're out, right? And when I actually really enjoyed Cologne, had a fairly simple group stage bracket. You lose two, you're out. So people were eliminated fairly quickly. And maybe you don't get like the full feeling how good a team was at that event, but you have an event next week anyway. So I don't have to see Navi playing 7 games to see if they are like bad or super bad or like okay. It doesn't matter. They weren't top 8. They don't go to the playoffs. Let's move on, and that's it. So from the point of view of round robin, it's just so fucking long. 8 teams, best of 3 round robin. It's like 2 weeks of the group stage. It's gonna be boring. That's it.
Well, don't say that. That's my fucking job you're talking about, mate. I got to go there and talk about all that Counter-Strike. But just quickly, from a perspective of...
It was just made so SPUNJ can get a bigger salary and work more days.
Work more days, because I hate myself and I don't want to do anything else with my life. But seriously for a second here. Now, I want people to remember that, like, from a TO perspective, it'd be very easy. TO stands for Tournament Organizer for all of you playing at home. It could be very easy to justify this, right? Like in the sense of more matches, more exposure, all those kind of things, more games,
Easier to schedule, yes. Easier to get people to bet on because you have the full schedule like a week in advance, so you can do those multi-combination betting things, and bettors watch games, so that also works. I also didn't touch on maybe the most important part is just from a competitive integrity standpoint, round robin can kind of suck sometimes because people have nothing to play for. Some teams have nothing to play for, playing against a team that has everything to play for, and then you don't really try your hardest. Even if you want to win, it's not going to be the same thing, right?
Yeah, and we'll ask Chris about that in a second here, but I just want to make sure this is clear for everybody because before you all just like demonize all these TOs and stuff, if this was spread out in a better calendar and we had like big standalone event, then long drawn out league, but there was space between it and everything, it wouldn't feel like we're about to do 2.5 months of Counter-Strike, which is what we are about to do for the ESL broadcast alone. But also remember that these teams who now were getting exposure at events around the world no longer have that. So they also have obligations to their own sponsors. You know, like the Vitality has the Red Bulls, you know, Complexity has to show Dallas Cowboys that they're getting, you know, certain numbers. FaZe's got to show G Fuel or whoever the fuck they've got. You know, like all of these teams have their own sponsor obligations that they need to uphold to make sure they get money through the door. Now, this is from quite a business and nuanced perspective, but if I'm those sponsors and the world shifts and the obligations that they signed up for, I'm now looking for new ways for these people to hit those obligations. And one of those ways is by just having my brand and, you know, the players wearing the shirts, having their reaction cams, having the back walls like Astralis were doing, quite smart from a business perspective, ladies and gentlemen. All of those things is to give more brand exposure. Now, this is a business. Everybody needs to make the money. That is how this works. As much as we love it from a competition standpoint, it is a business. So everybody is out here with the changing landscape that is going on, working out the best ways to get more. And what is more? More eyeballs, more streaming, more. That is the only way right now that we can do it. We can't get you coming through the arenas. We can't get your foot traffic. We can't get you interested in the little booth where you try a little freebie and then you buy a big tub of G Fuel because your mum was with you and she wants to buy it for you because it's your fucking birthday or some shit. Those things, they don't exist anymore. So we need to at this current climate, come up with different ways. Now, we're getting too far away from the thing in itself. Chris, round robins, what do you think as a player? Like, you never usually finding yourself in a position where you've got nothing to play for at the moment, but I'm sure you can imagine what that feeling is like. What do you think about that scenario?
In terms of like, yeah, having nothing to play for, I think kind of experienced that a bit with our 2 losses in the recent online era, pretty much. So I can kind of feel like just how pointless and just like how demotivating it can be to play. But honestly, like, I'd love to give you like a really smart answer and whatnot, but honestly, I just don't even look at the tournament, how it runs or the brackets. I just feel like I just need to win and that's it. So I'm sorry, I wish I could give you a better answer.
Okay, no.
That's a good answer.
That is a good answer, right? Like, I think that because it's long, like, because what happens with the length of these things, and some of the players I can imagine are still a little bit jaded that they only have online Counter-Strike, like especially the top dogs, that for them, it now becomes even more of like just an arduous task. So they're going into the office, they're punching in, and they're doing their shit. Like, to be able to keep that competitive drive for so long, I know it can be difficult, but when you're in the other position and like the heroics, the bigs, the complexities, obviously you boys want to win as much as you can. That's the angle that we're looking for, right? So hopefully everybody can find that level of enthusiasm. Prof, do we want to dive into the next one, or do you have any more stuff on round robin?
No.
All right, we got about 13.
Someone in chat said, did we already tell SPUNJ today how freaking awesome he is and what a great job he is doing here and on the desk? Just a random nice message, so I thought you would enjoy it.
Oh, that's lovely. I like to be self-deprecating, guys, because what it does for me is it makes me keep my own ego in check, because otherwise I would just be an absolute monster of a human being. So the more that I do negative self-talk, the better it is for all of you. So just stick with that. Okay, so we're going to have a look here at what EU teams have the most on the line here. So Lucas, I'm going to send you the link and bring this one up because we need to get Lucas out of on time here. So we'll smash through these next 2. And then if we have a few minutes left, we might ask Chris some viewer questions if there were any. So let's bang through this one real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Lucas, there it is. I hope you have it. Yes, you are. You're doing a great job. You're doing fantastic. All right. So now the teams in these groups, I can read them out for everybody here while we're whacking them on screen. Group A is Big, G2, Na'Vi, Heroic, OG, Godsend, Ents, and Ago. And on the other side of things for Group B is Jesus, Joseph, and fucking Mary. Vitality, Complexity, FaZe, Fnatic, Astralis, Mouse Sports, Spirit, and NIP. Off the top of your head here, Prof, who's sticking out as ones that you think have to be a little bit worried?
I think for me, a team to watch is Ents, just because they didn't really play much, and they are in that category of teams that doesn't really get invited to everything. But if they do a good result here, then they will go into that like top 18, top 15 in the world position, which is pretty important for them. I think they are the team that I'm looking forward to. Obviously, Astralis as well. They showed some good stuff and then also got rolled by NIP, right? Was that the game that eliminated them? So them,
Navi, yeah.
And Fnatic maybe. I don't know why. Just because Fnatic.
I think that too, because like Fnatic are the ones who know the highest highs, at least with the core of the team. So if they just keep losing, I worry at what that's going to do to them. Chris, are there any names out here that you think have a lot to prove or a lot to lose?
I probably agree with the whole Fnatic story, because I feel like they need to kind of prove themselves once again. Like, it's been such a upswing and then downhill like road for them. So I think it's definitely that. It's kind of hard, just like literally every single one of these teams, like these top teams, need have something to prove, and then like these like tier 2-ish in the comp teams like have something else to prove, and then I think their like whole desire to win is just so much more than like the tier ones. They're just like, I don't know, just like a different thought process, if anything, that I can see.
I worry because of the group stage format here that if teams like start spiraling and losing a lot of games to the underdog teams that you're talking about, that's where we will see some real troubles come in. Like Vitality just being in a final, like if they're losing to the likes of Spirit and a newly formed mouz Sports roster and that kind of stuff, that's where I think they might find themselves in trouble. But if they're losing to like Astralis and Complexity, and then that's probably not such a big worry. On the other side of things, I think it's definitely Na'Vi, because you just have to go back to Katowice. They're the highest of highs, and right now it's the RMR events. Like, are they a danger prof still with not making it to the major that won't happen?
They won the second one, so that put them in a decent position. I think they're still not first, but they're like up there in the top few teams in CIS. So it's okay now, but still not out of the danger zone. They still need to like do well in the last one.
So with that, Chris, in the vein that you were talking about of these lower teams having more to prove, do you think we get like another underdog, at least winner, or a bunch of underdog teams scraping through? Because it's 4 teams per group going through here.
Honestly, I think so, because obviously, as you guys have said, like these tier 1 teams have their brains are wired into LAN environments, and then like these other teams are just like their brains are wired into online environments, so they know how to pick, they know how to react. Like for us, for example, when we were playing, everyone was holding off angles, and you can't even do that in online CS, because you can just get white song, and that's just a massive advantage. And like if some teams even realize that, like that's just going to be like a beneficial thing for them. So I honestly do feel like one of these tier 2 teams or whatever is just going to try to make big upsets.
Okay. Are there any names there, like at least from your like demo watching or experiences playing against, like obviously for those people who aren't familiar, we are talking about the spirits of the world. We're talking about Godsent, Ents, of course, Ago. I think I have to start giving OG a little bit more respect, so I won't lump them into that right at the moment. Like those are the names, but most of those names, like I would still find a hard time making a case to see. Like I could actually no, I wouldn't. Like Spirit have a lot of good players. Spirit have a lot of good players. Godsent, like I think
Godsent are really good. Like
yeah,
I think from what I've seen, like they've played really well. So I'm very interested to see how they play. Honestly.
All right, well throw some darts in the dark for us, mate. Off of just your gut and what you've seen, who are the top 4 teams you think are going through from Group A?
Let me have to see the group.
There's no wrong answer. I've got them here for you. So hold on. I'll link it in fucking TeamSpeak for you. We'll get it so you can have it right in front of you. Lucas has it up on the screen, but there's probably a little bit of delay there. So it's just in that little studio room right there. So just again for everybody at home, the 2 groups are, well, Group A is Big, G2, Na'Vi, Heroic, OG, Godsent, Ents, and Ago.
For Group A, for me, it'll be G2, Na'Vi, Heroic, and Godsent.
Okay, so you think Na'Vi can bounce back? All right. And then Group B?
Group B, probably. Well, that's a hard one.
Yeah, this one's fucking insane.
For me, I think it's going to be Vitality, Complexity, Astralis, and Fnatic. Yeah.
Oh, Fnatic with the bounce back. All right. What we'll do is we'll leave that there, because Lucas is going to want to start packing this up any second. So we're not going to run the playtime bumper, Lucas. There's no time for that shit. Prof.
The questions.
But, yeah, you got some questions for Chris before we close this one
I
out?
have quite a few, actually. As I said in the pre-show, a lot of them talking about your Chad big dick energy. I don't know why. Maybe some people do. So there's a short question. I can't read his username. The most broken English as well. His most hated player to play against. That is what he said. But yeah, you get the gist of the question.
Yeah. Most hated player, I'd have. Oh, I don't know. It's just probably just Zyru in general. Like, you shouldn't put that much fear into you as you play a freaking video game, but it happens.
Oh, so the fear is real. Like the simple and the Zyru fear is real.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't want to go to the A side and overpass because you know Zyru is helping.
All right.
Says downtime error. I think this guy asked a few good questions so far. To Dexter, what would you consider your greatest achievement in CSGO?
Greatest achievement. Firstly, probably just winning the minor, if anything. We're the only other Australian team that's not freaking Renegades or 100 Thieves as well, whatever, that lineup, and probably beating Liquid and SK, and knocking them out of tournaments. Yeah, sometimes they don't really think it's much, but yeah, for us at the time, it was just everything.
I can feel that. I know I've got similar feels with those kind of sentiments right there.
So this guy sent a few questions. It says, which teams would he like to play for if Renegades ever fell apart? Any plans? Any offers from other teams that happened?
I could say yes, but I'm not going to say anything else. But but like in terms of just like whole teams, I'd probably like put it. Yeah, if Renegades fell apart, it'd be like mouz, FaZe, and Liquid. Those three teams, I'd probably like love to join.
Okay, all right. Couple of international squads there in the mix. Get Dexter an in-game lead-in, doing a bit of the lurky. That'd actually work with FaZe.
I'm open in-game leading.
Get him on the phone, or you were getting in-game lead.
Okay. Did NBK invite you to OG when they were making the team?
Ooh.
No.
Ooh. He's always singing.
He's just he's just way too nice to me, honestly.
No, I honestly have heard behind the scenes from a lot of players and a lot of people that I talk to that you're a very highly rated player on the marketplace, mate. So don't be too humble about it.
A lot of similar questions, people asking about like things we talked about, international scene, would you move to NA? When you meet girls, Chad energy. There's a question. That's also what we talked about. The guy named Cabbage. We can end with that. What do you think the year could have been for Renegades? Do you think you could have been contender for playoffs if the pandemic didn't hit?
In terms of just being a player that wants to win and be the best all the time, 100%. I reckon we could have been so much more this whole year.
Ooh. Okay. Well, hopefully we get back to land on 2021. We got 3 minutes, so what we'll do is we'll just wind it down a little bit early. But what we'll do is I want to give you the floor. Is there anything you want to say to anybody? You got any shout outs you want to do? You don't have to say anything, but if you want, go nuts.
I really don't know. I'm just appreciate anyone that's a big fan of me, who's been nice to me, and just keep being nice to other people, and just have a good time.
There we go. That's simple. That's like the nice messages I like to close the show out with. Some love. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you very much for coming on the show, Chris. It's been fantastic having you. I know it's late there now. We're getting very close to 1 a.m. for you, so it could be past your bedtime. You are a father and a chartered accountant after all, so you got lots of business to do tomorrow. Prof, we're back next Monday, right? Strikers with us?
Yes.
And we've actually maintained quite a decent viewership for 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So every show, guys, just for everybody playing at home, will be at 3 p.m. That's 1500 CEST until the daylight savings comes in. I don't know when it happens. I don't pay much attention to that shit. But it will be at this time. Lucas, our producer, he has some other bits and bobs that he has to go and do. So that's why we're bringing it early. Don't blame him. It's all worked out quite well. He's working an extra long shift today. If anything, you should be thanking him or we wouldn't have the show whatsoever. So big thumbs up to Lucas right there. Yeah, Striker should be back. Head over to anchor.fm/HLTV to find all the audio options when it gets uploaded. Obviously, we got the YouTube channel. We're over there on Twitter. And yeah, just look. I think Chris made a lovely sentiment there, guys. The world is in a pretty rocky place. We've already covered this before. We've been over it lots of times. You've heard my sentiments. But let's just fucking not go out of our way, but realize that if you're having not so good day, other people are probably having a not so good day either. And if you take your shit out on them, it's going to compound and it's going to continue and they're going to take it out on someone else. And if we just, go to the shops and say to somebody, have a nice day, simple shit, or just smile at people as you walk by instead of looking at your fucking shoes. The world can actually be a nicer, better place. Like, it's just the little things. So just consider what you're doing and how you're doing it and what you're saying to people, because we can spread some love in a real corny, cheesy, bullshit kind of way. We can. And I'm sorry for everybody. I got a bit fired up today. Got a little bit back into the old ways of Chad. We'll go do some yoga, we'll calm things down, and we'll see you on the next episode. So good night.